Hi, I'm Scott, and today I am here with
Russell Williams of Holospark.
to talk about their new game, Earthfall. So, firstly, could you just tell us a little bit about the game?
Sure, Earthfall is a co-op PvE game where you team up with your friends and fight aliens in the Pacific Northwest 30 years from now.
So, why are we fighting aliens in this game?
You'd have to ask the aliens about that. So basically, a meteorite comes and hits Seattle. There's a huge EMP and knocks out a lot of our equipment and our communication. Aliens come streaming out, and now we pick up after that, where humanity's fled east along the mountains to basically avoid them. And now you're playing a member of the resistance group that's trying to fight back against the aliens and save the remnants of humanity.
So there are 4 characters for the game, but there are a lot more human kind of characters than a lot of these other games. They're a lot more believable in terms of you've got like an IT director, an X-Track star and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Could you tell us a bit about the characters?
Sure. So there's Maya, as you mentioned. She's like a track star in college, and she's really competitive, and so that's why she keeps trying to. She's a little bit bossy and really kind of wants to be the next in line to the leader. And the leader is Roy. He's a Coast Guard, and he's got some kids who are still alive back at a town called Sanctuary. So he's really focused on making sure they stay alive. He's got a very big personal stake beyond just the rest of them. Jonas is a bitter ex-Microsoft programmer who is really sad that the world doesn't take much advantage of his skill set anymore. Now it's less about programming and more about flamethrowers. Yeah. And then there's Danny, who's a delivery boy, really into science fiction, so he's always trying to sort of like understand and think about the aliens more as just targets. So of course everybody's like, no, Danny, just think of them as targets.
So one of the big things that the dev team have been speaking about is that there are no cutscenes in the game. The storytelling's all organic through the gameplay, through the learning about them. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, we have basically at the very beginning of each mission, we'll basically have it's an in-engine where we show you a little bit of what the level looks like, and they'll talk a little bit of what they're doing and why they're there. The rest of it is all through the gameplay. And so some of it is what we sort of call a little bit of textural environmental storytelling. So for example, in one of the missions, there's a room where you can find that some scientists have holed up, and you see a board with some equipment on it, some schematics, and some notes that they made about like how are the aliens actually sensing us. And we never really talk about it in the rest of the game, but later we come back to it. So in campaign 2, you're testing an early warning system for the aliens. And if you look at the equipment, it's that same stuff that was on the equipment on the workbench in campaign 1 that's now assembled and actually working. And nobody ever says, oh, it's working because the aliens do this. But if you go back and replay that mission and look at those notes, you can understand the principles on which it's working. The other thing is we actually have at the end of each campaign, there's 2 campaigns, 5 missions each. There's going to be a big action sequence, and we actually reveal big questions of what's going on in the world. So for example, in campaign 1, you find out a little bit of what these things are actually doing besides just trying to run around and eat everybody, and why humanity is really screwed, much more so than you realized. And then in campaign 2, you find out a little bit more what these aliens actually are and why you might be able to fight back against.
So one of the big things that you kind of, with weapons and stuff that you find around the level, a lot of them are kind of alien, kind of very much more high-tech equipment than the kind of usual pistols and rifles and systems like. Can you tell us a little bit about the weapon systems and some of the tech stuff?
A lot of them are very recognizable, like, you know, the AK-67 is a futuristic version of the AK-47. And so, you know, there's the shotgun, there's the machine gun, there's the sniper rifle. You know, we got a ton of weapons. I think, you know, 20 plus weapons. But we've also got some more unusual things. We have, for example, like a barricade system where you can actually take a device, throw it down, arms open up, fence comes out. Now you can go through it, but the aliens can't. They can knock it down over time, but of course you're shooting through it, trying to take them out as they're going after it. You can also do things like upgrading. So for example, if you get one of our electric grenades, they're called arc grenades, you know, fire out this huge bolts of electricity and everything, you can attach that to the fence, and now you've electrified it. And now they get, you know, electrocuted as they try to come through. And you'll also see, again, sort of a little bit with our storytelling, in campaign 2, you're following the trail of some scientists who are studying and working against these aliens. and they actually start developing like more sci-fi weaponry, like more like a plasma rifle. And that's a combination of the pinnacle of human technology at the time, and also some things they've noticed about the aliens sort of that they're using to build this weapon. And so now you've got some cool new sci-fi weaponry to take out these aliens. And of course, one of the reasons we wanted to use aliens, besides all the story we get out of it, is because we wanted sort of a reactive intelligence. And so we're going to give you more weapons as we go, and then the aliens will up the challenge against you.
This is a nice kind of change from the kind of usual zombie, dinosaur, monsters, things like that.
You kill a million zombies don't get worried about it, right? They don't get together and try to figure out how to thwart those humans.
So it feels like you're fighting an intelligent force that's
Yes.
reactive to what you're doing.
And at the very beginning, what you're seeing are aliens running around trying to eat you, right? And they feel like beasts. And so there's these big questions of like, why are they trying to eat us? Why would they be compatible with us? Why aren't they using technology? And as we reveal more and more, we have really satisfying answers for this, and it takes the game in very interesting directions.
So obviously it's a co-op game, and there's kind of almost been a lack of co-op games being released lately.
A criminal lack of co-op games.
There's been a lot of release of kind of games where you're fighting your friends rather than playing with them. So what was the idea behind creating a co-op game?
Well, I was a huge Left 4 Dead fan, and I mean, I've got hundreds of hours into Left 4 Dead, and I just wanted more. And it's been almost a decade since Valve put that out. And, you know, don't get me wrong, I love playing PvP. I'm a huge Battlefield fan. But, you know, I'm an average player, and some nights I wind up getting my ass kicked the whole night. And so, like, I love co-op games because you and your friends are kind of the stars of the shows. It's always a good time. And so the industry just ignored it for so long. So I really wanted to go back and build a modern version of Left 4 Dead. Build it on a modern engine, give it modern engine shooter mechanics. Like now we have aim down sights, things like that just weren't in the original, and really sort of like bring it into the modern age. And you know, now you see other co-op games as well, and they're really high quality. And I think it's a testament to the genre that the industry is finally returning to it, because nobody's actually duplicating or stepping on each other's toes. We could have 5 times as many co-op games, and I think we would just really start to sort of do the genre justice.
Because we've quite a lot of co-op games that have come out in the last few years have all kind of had a class-based system. Like if you look at like Killing Floor, and there was a dinosaur one that I can't remember the name of right now, but a lot of them were class-based. But Earthfall doesn't have classes; it's a lot more organic, and so you have that element of being able to have interact with the environment, and like you said, you can upgrade the barricade and stuff. But the characters themselves, they're all capable of doing the same things. Right,
and so basically, you decide how you want to play inside the game. So like you're running around and you see a weapons cache, and oh hey, here's a sniper rifle, and here's a flamethrower. Right? Completely different weapons, completely different play styles. If you're the guy who likes to be the sniper, take the sniper rifle. So for example, there's a mission called Revelation where you're fighting around the small town with a church. And you know, like I've recently gotten being very much in a sniper in Battlefield. So there's a big sequence at the end where you're trying to escape through this section of the town, and I'll take the sniper rifle and go up to the belfry and, you know, basically do fire support for my guys. And then I mostly die trying to get out myself. But you know, you can basically choose the kind of style that you want to play in the game. The reason we didn't want to do class-based is because it kind of makes it hard to matchmake with people, right? So you jump into a game and somebody's like, well, you got to play this role. I'm like, well, I don't want to play that role. Well, we need somebody to play the role. So we wanted to make it really easy to jump in and jump out. And so, for example, one of the things that we do is, like, let's say you can play by yourself if you want to. You can set it up to be solo play only, or you can set it up to play with anybody or just play with your friends. So like, let's say you start playing a game and you're waiting for your friends to come online, but you want to get started, right? You're in the game, you're halfway through, one of your friends comes online, he can jump into your game and he takes over an AI. And so people can come into your game and fill out the ranks and you can keep playing. And if somebody needs to leave, an AI will take over their position. We just want to make it really easy to jump in and play with your friends rather than get into a state where you're constantly trying to decide if this particular game session works for me because I'm forced into a role I don't want to play.
So how long are the missions on average when you play through them?
About 30 minutes, if you're successful. A lot of these missions you're going to be playing multiple times because it's a challenging game.
Speaking about challenging and the difficulty, what is the difficulty like? You mentioned it's challenging, but how challenging is it?
Well, I'm pretty good at it now after after a couple of years of playing it every single day. When we see people play it at PAX, we get a pretty good response. We watch a lot of people fail. We watch some people get through the first go round. Like, you can see the people who are really great shooter players, just in their movements and such. But even then, like we have a dynamic director system, right? And so sometimes you get a big fight here with a big boss monster, and then sometimes there's nothing there, right? And so there's a lot of there's variability based upon how well you're doing in the game, and also some randomness that goes into it. So it can get challenging at moments, and even really good players can get knocked down and be taken out.
So obviously there's the shooting is quite a big aspect of it, but there's also melee weapons as well that
Yes.
you can take part in. So what kind of melee weapons have you got on offer for players?
Well, we've got hatchets. We've got a really scary. Sorry, we just updated the art for it, and it's basically sort of like a machete with like these really really awesome teeth along it. You do not want to be hit by that thing. We've got geez Louise. Sorry, I've just been playing a whole lot with all of the guns. Trying to remember what the other melee weapons we have off the top of my head. I honestly can't think of one right now. I know we have more of them.
So the rather than just running through from one area to the other, there are objectives in the missions that you have to do. Could you tell us a bit about the objective system?
Sure. Some of the missions are very, very different. So some of the missions are what I think of as sort of A to B missions, where you're going to start here and go through there, right? And some of them are like almost no objectives. Like the very first mission that you play is called Supply Run, and basically you're going from place to place, and you scavenge weapons along the way, and you get to the end, and you have to open up a little secure area and get into it. So there's almost nothing that you have to do along the way. And then there are very heavy objective missions, and they're more of the story missions. So and one that we're showing right now, it's called Diversion. There's another team that's going to do a mission against the aliens, and you're trying to create a diversion by restarting a hydroelectric dam that's going to pull off a bunch of the aliens to you. So you've got to do a number of things to get that dam online, and then you've got to escape by a boat at the end. And so that's a very objective focused mission. And we've got another one called Breakdown, where you have a car, your car basically breaks, and you're in a junkyard trying to find another gas car because EMP pulse knocked out all the electric cars. And that's kind of a hub and spoke. There's a central place where you're going to keep coming back to. And that has a 3D printer where you can print your own weapons. And you can also put up lots of barricades. So you're going to reinforce that area because you're coming back to it a lot. But then you have to run off to place to grab a battery and a wheel and stuff to bring it back to fix up the van.
So you touched on the printing your own weapons mechanic like there. Could you tell us a bit more about the concept of that?
Yeah, so this is one of the reasons we wanted to put it 30 years in the future. So you have some new capabilities than you have right now. One is the 3D printer, and that lets you, each 3D printer has like different weapons and things it lets you print. And so you can run up to it, do a quick channel, and then you wait for the weapon to print, and you grab it off and take it and run off. And we wanted that because again, like when we were talking about the service station mission where you're staying there a lot, we wanted you to basically be able to control a little bit of which weapon you got. And it's a little bit more organic than just having, like tons and tons of weapons around, right? Having the system. And it's also cool because, it plays a little bit into the objective world where you have to sometimes turn on the power to get those printers working. We've also got health stations that will actually heal you at the place. So when we put those things together, it's a good reinforceable place for you to hold out. And of course, we've also got the barricade kit, which is another thing, from the future where we can throw down and create choke points. We have mounted turrets that you can deploy and fire. We have unmanned guns that you can throw down, and they'll automatically just cover a direction. And you can also, how many times have you played one of these games and you're like, they're going to be coming from here, so I'm setting it all up in this direction. That was a terrible mistake. I want to push it over here. You can actually spend a little time and pick it up and move it. So you can take those assets and redeploy them on the battlefield if you want.
So obviously the game, you said it takes about 30 minutes to do. How much is there a sense of urgency in the missions? Can you take your time with them, or if you take too long in one area, will you be overrun?
So it's a little bit dependent on what kind of mission you're playing. So for example, if you have a 3D printer, you have effectively an infinite renewable source of guns. And so you can do a long holdout there if you want to. If you're scavenging, well, you're going to have to be worried about your ammo use. And so the longer you take, the more likely it is you're going to run out of bullets. So it's a little bit of the player's play style. Like I've seen people play very cautiously. I'm a run and gun kind of guy. I'm always like flying through. We had an employee one time and she played completely different than I did. So I'm always like, what is the shortest distance between the 2 points I'm going and optimizing that? And I thought that was the most effective way to play, right? Because I'm using the least amount of ammo. And then she was just like a butterfly floating around the battlefield. And it turned out there's all sorts of weapon caches and places you could pick up things I did not realize. And so she was actually able to do pretty well, even though she had a completely different play style than I did.
So it's currently in early access on Steam.
Yeah.
What can we expect to be coming up before release and at launch?
So right now on early access, I think there's about 2/3 of the content that's in the game. When we actually launch, we will put all of the content into the PC version at that time. And it's all launching together. So we're launching on PC, on Steam, we're launching on Xbox One and PlayStation 4. And that's in, right now we're saying late spring.
So if we want to keep up with the game and where and what's going on with it, where can we find you?
Earthfall.com.
And how much is the game currently retailing at on the Steam Early Access?
So the Steam Early Access, right now it's £10.99, which is a steal.
Okay, thank you very much. If you've enjoyed this, make sure to keep in touch with us at Bago Games on the website at bagogames.com or our YouTube, Twitter and Facebook.